Hey everybody, Dove218 here, Paranormal Video Gamer. How are you guys doing? Coming to you live from the power of the internet. And on today's little broadcast that I wanted to do, I'm actually coming to you live from my house again. I wanted to talk to you guys about the situation that happened the other day here in Cleveland with the firing of Ray Farmer and Mike Pettin. The situation that happened was basically they lost against the Pittsburgh Steelers. It was 28 to, I think it was 28 to 12, if I remember correctly, the final score. But anyway, they lost the game, and it was absolutely horrible the way they lost. The defense was terrible. The offense didn't seem like it was clicking much. There was a couple bright spots, but it wasn't something that was like, it just wasn't like really a bright spot. It was kind of like, okay, okay, and I'm a longtime Browns fan. Okay, I'm a lifelong Browns fan. I've been a Browns fan since I've been 6 years old. I remember the days of Webster Slaughter. I remember the days of watching Vinny Testaverde play. So I mean, I remember certain players. I remember Kevin Mack. There's certain players that I remember. I remember growing up and watching on TV. So I'm a huge fan. I've been a fan ever since I was a kid. And to see the Browns today play the way that they have played, and then they have this play like a Brown montage that they have nowadays. Well, they weren't really playing like a Brown, on Sunday. They were playing like shit. And I'll be completely honest. There were a lot of bonehead plays that there were a lot of defensive screw-ups. Some of the plays were great. There were a lot of defensive plays. There were 2 interceptions that were fantastic. That, I was like, wow, where the hell did that guy come from? But there were a lot of plays that made me go, what? And I was just blown away that could happen, especially fumble-wise. What was going on? Like, my whole thought process, and I'm sitting there like, I'm getting a headache watching this. So Mike Pettin and Ray Farmer got fired yesterday, and for good reason. Now, I personally, I didn't think Mike Pettin needed to be fired. I honestly think it was Ray Farmer that needed to be fired over Mike Pettin. But I understand why they fired Mike Pettin because of the record. But here's my picks on who I think should be general manager and president of the Cleveland Browns next. Now, again, this is just my opinion. Don't take it for literal. It's just my personal picks who I'd like to see in the Cleveland Browns organization as it goes forward. And Jimmy Haslam, if you're watching this video, please, take this into consideration. I think I speak for a lot of Cleveland Browns fans, especially older, like myself, who've been fans for a very long time. This is why I'm choosing these particular people over some of the modern Cleveland Browns fans, because some of the modern Cleveland Browns fans, they're going to choose people that are, in the more scope of the, modern Cleveland era. They're more going to choose people that are in the NFL now than the people that I'm going to choose. My first pick for president of the Cleveland Browns, or vice president, I'm going to say vice president, but, I'd be happy if they chose him for president either or. I'm very happy with this if they decide to do this. I'm going to choose Bernie Kosar. And here is my reason before you blow up and yell and scream at me and throw obscenities. First off, I'm choosing Bernie Kosar as vice president or president because Bernie understands football. Okay, and there's been a lot of talk. Bernie Kosar has a lot of mental issues. The guy suffered concussions when he had his career. Yes, the guy has suffered a lot of mental stuff, But the guy knows football. He's passionate about football. As long as he can take, his medication and he's in good health, the guy understands football and the guy wants to help the Cleveland Browns. Now, the question remains, how long can he help the Cleveland Browns? And I think he's got a good 10 years that he can help the Cleveland Browns find a good quarterback and find a good quarterback that is actually going to be a franchise quarterback. Now, what is the long-term stipulation on Bernie Kosar becoming the president? Well, there isn't a long-term. Bernie probably is not going to be in the best of health where he can continue to be the president of the Cleveland Browns, and I understand that, but that's where Bernie would, step aside and give the position to somebody that he believes can lead the Cleveland Browns into the future. And I think Bernie is the man for this particular position because Bernie understands the quarterback position probably better than anybody in the NFL and in the Cleveland Browns organization. This man understands what it's like to get concussions. He understands what it's like to be, on the field. He understands what it's like to be nervous when you are on that field. He understands the concerns of a quarterback. He understands the focus of a quarterback. He understands even the defensive players, what they have to go through when, they're going to approach the quarterback. So I'm choosing Bernie Kosar as vice president or president of the Cleveland Browns. I hope that they would at least consider this because I do think that Bernie would be an excellent choice. Again, even if it's not a long-term plan, at least it gives them a step in the right direction to help get the wheels turning in the right direction, which is something that the Cleveland Browns have never had. Ever since they've come back from the 99 season, we've never had the step in the right direction. It seems like we get the step in the right direction, and then all of a sudden the wheels get taken out from underneath us, and then we're crushed under our own weight. And that's been the biggest problem. So, with that being said, who would I select as the general manager? So my general manager is a very different pick than what is probably currently in the NFL. A lot of people said we should bring like John Gruden. A couple people I saw said that we should bring like Andy Reid. A few people said that we should even try to entice Bill Cowher to come in and actually be general manager of the Cleveland Browns. I'm going to go with a lifelong Cleveland Browns fan and former player again. And the reason I'm going with a lifelong Cleveland Browns fan and player is because he understands the culture of Cleveland Browns football. He understands what we call the heart disease of Cleveland Browns football. He understands what we as Cleveland Browns fans have dealt with for so long. We are sick and tired of it. Even if we don't win a Super Bowl, we would be just ecstatic to make it to the playoffs in 5 years from now. Just making it to the playoffs would be just amazing. Just an amazing feeling that we made it to the playoffs. And that person that I think can do this is Bob Golick. Bob Golick, if you talk to him, and I talked to him in 2001, there was a luncheon, and it was this big. It was 2001, 2002. There was this big celebrity luncheon with former Cleveland Browns players and whatnot. And I went to this with a friend of mine. And tickets were relatively cheap, actually. It was like $40 a ticket. And I went with this buddy of mine. And we went down and I shook the guy's hand. And he was so knowledgeable on wide receiver and halfback positions. And he made you feel like he knew what he was talking about because he did know what he was talking about. He understands the culture of Cleveland Browns football because he is a lifelong fan. He understands what Cleveland Browns football means to Cleveland Browns fans because he's a fan himself. The guy lives in Cleveland because he is a Cleveland fan. I think he lives in Solon, if I remember correctly. If I was reading, if I remember correctly, he moved to Solon a couple years ago. I mean, that's pretty close to Cleveland if you do the outskirts of it's like what 30 minutes from Cleveland or something like that. But I mean, the guy lives and breathes for Cleveland Browns football. He was correct in many assumptions of Johnny Manziel. I remember there was an article that was posted online. I can't remember exactly where the article was, but I remember reading he had basically posted that he had said that basically before the draft that we need to be very careful on Johnny Manziel because of his partying. And, if the Browns do take Johnny Manziel, they need to be very cautious and make Johnny Manziel understand that if he's going to party, that there is going to be a system where he cannot party like a couple days before a game. That way, he can have a drink or two, and then before a game, he has to stop. He has to say, okay, I can't have a drink because I can't have that before a game because I know me, I'm going to get drunk, and then I'm going to show up to a game drunk. And he was correct when he made the assumption that if he doesn't get that mindset that he's going to be a big problem during the season because eventually it's going to become a distraction. And it became a distraction this season with Johnny Manziel because Johnny was looking out for Johnny and Johnny was not looking out for the Cleveland Browns. And I know a lot of people are going to be like, you can't say that, but it's the truth. And what happened with Johnny just recently going out to Vegas while being on concussion protocol is another thing that concerns me because of one fact and one fact I'd like to bring up. This is a fact. When you are on if I can talk today, when you are apparently I can't. When you are on concussion protocol, according to the NFL rules, you must see the team doctor before the game, even if you're not prepared to play. Even if you're, as the player, you are not prepared to play, you have to see the team doctor to make sure that that particular player is following all cautionary procedures. The team doctor makes sure that that player sees that person that is in the concussion protocol to make sure that that person is okay and is getting the rest that that player needs to get healthy so they can get him back on the field. Johnny Manziel didn't show up to practice. He didn't even show up to the meeting in the concussion protocol because apparently he told a couple people he didn't even know that he was supposed to show up. Apparently, they called him several times and he didn't pick up his phone. But yet, multiple witnesses came forward and saying that they saw him in Las Vegas drinking again. Now, if this is true, if Johnny was seen in Vegas drinking, that is a violation of the concussion protocol because if a person has a concussion and is taking concussion medication, which is there's a couple of medications that a person can take for concussions to help get rid of the concussion or basically to lessen the pain from a concussion, from what I understood. These medications with alcohol can actually be deadly, can be fatal, can cause seizures. So if he's getting a prescription and is on these medications and drinking, he's basically putting himself in danger. But the other question is, if he's not taking these medications, is he faking the injury to get out of playing the game? That is another question mark. Because if he's faking an injury because he doesn't want to play the last game of the season, because he would rather go to Las Vegas and drink, and he's telling the coaches, oh, I don't feel good. I think I've got a concussion. To me, that's a big question on his ethics, on who he is as a person. It becomes a very big question whether or not this person is going to be in for the long haul as the starter of the Cleveland Browns. I personally, and I will say this again, do not see Johnny Manziel being the starter of the Cleveland Browns. And the reason I say this is because Johnny is always looked out for Johnny. When he was in college, it was always Johnny football. Johnny football. It was not Johnny Manziel. It was Johnny football. Johnny looks out for Johnny, and that's who it's always going to be. So, with that being said, I obviously think that Johnny is just Johnny. Johnny is always going to be Johnny. And no amount of training, no amount of trying to understand him is ever going to work because you can't understand Johnny Manziel. He's an alcoholic. Simply put. He's an alcoholic that doesn't understand that he's an alcoholic. He would rather go out and drink. I mean, it's one thing to go out and have a drink with friends, go out and have a drink or two, come home, and go to bed and rest and then go to the game on Sunday, and play. And then, you get off work and you have a couple drinks and that's fine. I got no problem with that. I don't think any Cleveland Browns fan would have a problem with, a player having a couple drinks, going to bed, the next day having a drink or two or three, and then that's it, I don't think any Cleveland Browns fan would have a problem with that. But when you're going to the bar and you're getting completely wasted, and then on top of that, you're becoming a distraction for the whole team and you're on video doing it. And it just seems like you don't give a crap. Then that becomes a problem. You're supposed to be a professional athlete. You're supposed to say, I'm better than this. You're supposed to be the leader of a professional football team. That's the part that he has to understand, and that's the part he needs to wake up and realize. And if he can't do that, then he's not going to be a starting quarterback for any team in the NFL. He will be a bust of a draft pick. And that's just the way it is. But that's my thoughts for today, guys. And, if you got any questions, comments, please feel free. Hit the like button. Post a comment. Let me know what you guys think. And hopefully the Browns will be able to figure it out. But those are my picks on who I think should be the next GM and president of the Cleveland Browns organization. So thanks for watching. Bye.